I really wasn't too sure what to expect from this film, but after watching it, I'm really, really happy that I did. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my channel. Please consider leaving a like and a subscribe. It really, really helps me out. In case you want to see more reviews just like this, I really love talking about movies. With that being said, let's move on to today's topic. Before I actually begin, I do want to preface that this is going to be a spoiler movie review. I want to be, completely upfront about this. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to save you so much time right now and tell you you absolutely do need to watch this movie. It's a great movie. It's definitely worth your time. So go watch it and then come back to this video to, watch my thoughts on this and share your thoughts down below. With that being said, let's go on to today's topic. So I had the absolute pleasure of watching Tony, the latest A24 film directed by Matt Johnson. It is a biopic centered around Anthony Bourdain, but not the larger-than-life version that most people know. Instead, it zooms in on a very specific formative moment in his life. We follow 19-year-old Bourdain, who goes by Tony throughout the film. After losing out on a writing fellowship, he heads to Princeton, kind of drifting, following a girl, trying to figure out his life. There, he stumbles into a chaotic kitchen where he meets the chef played by Antonio Banderas, along with the rest of the kitchen crew. What starts as a job slowly becomes something much deeper. Tony isn't just learning how to cook, he's learning who he is. At its core, this is a coming of age story about a young man who loses his sense of identity, searches for direction, and ultimately allows life and the people he meets to shape him into who he's meant to become. And really, what a simple yet beautiful journey that we get to experience on film. This film is very gritty, it's very in your face, and it doesn't shy away from a lot of things. What really grabbed me right away is how the film opens. We get this quote on screen where it states, "I was, to be frank, a spoiled, miserable, narcissistic, self-destructive, and thoughtless young loot, badly in need of a good ass kicking." That pretty much lays the track of the whole ride. From the start, we follow a young man who's totally lost. He thinks he's got a plan, thinks he's on some kind of path, but the film immediately sets up this juxtaposition. Confident but insecure, truthful but self-deceiving, bold and reckless all at once. That mix feels purposefully uncomfortable. It's hard to root for him at first, but that's honestly intentional. The arc is about watching that messy, directionless energy slowly take shape. Even when his choices feel impulsive or flat out dumb, the film is setting up that long climb towards some kind of self-definition. Before I go any deeper into the overall themes of the film, which is something I really, really want to talk about, I definitely do want to start off with the performances of the film. The cast is doing a lot of heavy lifting. You've got Leo Woodall as Sal, Emilia Jones as Nancy, Stavros Halkias, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, as Dimitri, and each one of them adds something necessary. But the two that really anchor the film for me is Dominic Sessa as Tony and Antonio Banderas as the chef. Banderas is fantastic here. He's running this little seafood spot that's nothing fancy, kind of rough, not some cathedral of cuisine. But from the moment he walks in, you believe he's in charge. It's not just the volume, it's the presence. You can feel the years of experience behind his eyes, even when the movie isn't spelling out his backstory. The kitchen feels cutthroat, but not because everyone's competing for status. It's cutthroat in a way a rough kitchen hazes the new guy. The people test you, they mess with you. But when Chef steps up, there is calmness in the kitchen. When he raises his voice, it's not fear, it's respect. And that respect feels earned. And there's this moment in the film with Sal where Chef's patient tells you everything about his character. He doesn't let his emotions run him. He's grounded, steady, even spiritual without being overbearing. That spirituality, that mentorship, it becomes the gentle guide for Tony. And Dominic Sessa matches him. Honestly, I'm not really too familiar with Sessa's work prior to this film, and watching him go toe-to-toe with Banderas is honestly very impressive. That veteran energy and that new blood energy, it plays on screen. You feel like you're watching not just a mentor and a mentee in the story, but something authentic between the actors themselves. Despite those two being really the main characters of the film, you do also have other characters, such as Sal, played by Leo Woodall. He represents like that typical bad guy that's really dangerous and confident. He's confident, loud, and gets attention, and seems like the guy Tony thinks he wants to be. But then you see the cracks, the drugs, the rage, the collapse underneath. His outburst when he hits Chef after demonstrating being late is not just a plot, it's character revelation. It's the moment the mask slips. That's when Chef's line about him being a sin eater really lands. He looks tough, but he's carrying all these unspoken rot inside him, and that implosion becomes Tony's lesson. This is the path I can't follow. Even without a redemption arc, Sal's role is vital. He's teaching by falling apart, and that's what makes him so memorable and unfortunately quite tragic in the film. And ultimately, I think Leo does a wonderful job with this role. On top of that, in the kitchen, you have Dimitri, played by Stavros Halkias. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. He doesn't have a huge backstory, but he matters. He's part of that rough kitchen ecosystem, the ball busting, the pressure, the noise that either hardens you or breaks you. And he really helps cultivate that culture that you see that in a lot of kitchen environments. I don't know if you've ever worked in the kitchen before. I've worked in one before, and it's very, very true in what the culture kind of really looks like when you're working in a kitchen. And despite him not having a huge role in terms of the overall themes, if you watch closely, Dimitri grows too in the kitchen. When the kitchen starts pushing into more ambitious dishes and Chef's attention is stretched, Dimitri steps up. He starts calling out things, taking ownership of the line. It's subtle, but it's there. So even without a big solo arc, he embodies that truth about the kitchen life. You adapt, you step up, or get eaten alive. It rounds out the world and makes Tony's growth feel more grounded. Finally, we have Emilia Jones as Nancy. She doesn't have a sprawling backstory, but her presence matters. Nancy's written less as a mystery to solve, but more as a mirror. She knows what she wants, she has standards, and she doesn't bend just because Tony's restless or trying to impress her. That in itself is a challenge to him. And grow up, get clear on who you are, stop posturing. She functions almost like a compass point. Even when the film doesn't over explain her, you feel her impact. She nudges Tony away from performative cool and towards the harder, quieter work of becoming himself. It's quiet and it's understating, but she does set that bar for Tony. And that finally brings us to the main performance with Dominic Sessa as Tony, or should I say Anthony Bourdain. His performance really surprised me. He's not a household name, and A24 doesn't really go for big stars, you know, like the DiCaprios and the Brad Pitts of the world. But man, he does carry this film. You know, the opening few scenes in the movie where you have that dinner scene with him and his family, that tight close up on his face while his mother looms across the table sets the tone. He's speaking these ambitions, but his body language says that he doesn't believe in them. There's a power imbalance, almost like he's already embracing for her disapproval. And what I do like is that despite that being the case, you know, the film really leaves it to open interpretation. Maybe she's overbearing because she's tired of his lies. You can view this as a mother who's overbearing, but you could also view it as a mother who is tired of the lies. Either way, Tony calls himself a writer, but he knows it's hollow. The kitchen becomes a place he can't fake, and what Dominic does so well is let you see those small shifts. You see those small wins that he has in his life where he's doing a lot of things for the first time, learning really how to be responsible, and those small wins really compounds into his overall growth. You know, it's the first time that he holds his ground, the first time he doesn't shrink, and even the first time that he owns a choice. It's not flashy, it's gradual. That makes it feel honest, like a real coming of age that doesn't announce itself with fireworks, but with quiet little turns. That's where Dominic's performance really shines in this film. And that's one of the things that I really loved about this film, not just with how the characters are written or portrayed, it's really the attention to the overall themes that the film wants to display. One of the strongest things about this film is just how it handles themes, especially the spiritual layer. Cinematography wise, it's not flashy, no wild palettes or showy camera calling attention to itself. It's gritty and grounded and serves the story. But what really stuck with me is how much the film relies on show don't tell. And one of the clearest through lines is religion. It's always there, but it never stops the movie cold to explain itself. The bucket of water gag is a perfect example of this. On the surface level, it could be a slapstick. Tony is broke, he doesn't have anywhere to live, and Chef offers him this hamnet where he can sleep as long as he works in his kitchen as a dishwasher. And we can view this as a simple plot element. Tony oversleeps, Chef dumps some water in his face, and we can move on. But then if you sit with it, it feels almost baptismal, like a half comic, half serious ritual of cleansing, as if every day he's literally being washed awake and shoved towards some better version of himself. And if that wasn't very clear, then you have the church scenes as well. The church scenes do tend to reflect what's going on in his real life world. For example, the shore of the beach washing Tony's feet after he resists heroin, and there are other small touches in the movie as well. It all builds this quiet current of faith and redemption. It's not a neon sign flashing meaning, it's a steady undercurrent. And that restraint, letting the images speak instead of spelling everything out, is exactly what makes it land for me. The film never stops to preach about its overall meanings, it kind of allows you to see that visually throughout his experiences. And that's really what I love about this story and how it portrays that on screen. As it wasn't already obvious, the strongest element here is identity. It proposes those very simple but profound questions. The who am I? What kind of person am I supposed to become? Not just what job am I supposed to do or what do I do with my life, but something spiritual, something about the soul. That's why, I really appreciate that the film doesn't end with tragedy. And to be completely transparent, I wasn't too, informed about Anthony Bourdain and his life overall. And so when I found out about how his life ultimately ended in such tragic fashion, it really, really upsetted me. And I did like that the film didn't include this section in the film. It would have deviated a lot from the points that I wanted to ultimately show. It focuses on beginnings, on discovering purpose. Tony starts by pretending. He claims he's a writer, but he's just lost. His body betrays that lie even when his mouth doesn't. I find it very interesting that she is the only one that calls him Anthony and that Tony doesn't even like that fact. Everyone else, even himself, calls him Tony. She's the only one who can see through his disguise. And that's very true because at the end, when they're sharing another dinner scene and Anthony is sharing his experiences at the dinner table, you can see that she's meeting a completely different person and that she's much more proud of him than where he was before. There's a sense of hope for him and that he's actually going to be able to pursue something with his life. And we don't really need that dialogue in this scene. And just the mother's facial expression alone as they talk, you can really see that. And I love that the film doesn't go into over explaining these things. Learning to cook, shuck oysters, make fries, all that, it's not about cooking. It's about growing into a self he can actually live with. And the little moments matter, just like the difference between the interview that he has in the beginning of the film where he's applying for a fellowship versus the end of the film where he's applying for culinary school. He's ambitious, but he's full of it. The second he's honest about being a dishwasher, and that honesty, that strength, and that arc ending with him reclaiming his name, it feels earned. It's hopeful, not tragic, and it's less about the greatness and more about becoming yourself. And that's really what I love about this film. It's really about finding yourself and letting life show you that. So those are my overall thoughts on the movie Tony. I really, really do recommend all of you guys to definitely check out this movie whenever you do guys have the chance. It's really, I love coming of age films and, of course, there's definitely different variations. It's not like very typical in the sense of what like happens in the journey overall. It's much more grittier, a little bit more honest in terms of what goes on in his life, and I really appreciate that vulnerability and that honesty. But definitely go check it out. It's definitely worth your time, and I think you'll come out of that film very, very happy. With that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning into my channel and to watching this other review. Please consider leaving a like and a subscribe and share your comments down below about what your thoughts were about the film. What stood out to you? What did you take away from the film? I would really, really love to know down in the comment section down below. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. And if you do enjoy my movie reviews, please consider coming back for my next one and checking out my other movie reviews in case you haven't seen them yet. I really, really, love the support that I get from anybody here who sticks around. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning into my channel, and we'll see each other again on the next one.